Okay, it's 11:31. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to the February 15th meeting of the Overland Park Rotary Club. I am Jamia Haynes. I am your club president-elect. I want to welcome you here on this snowy, cold, and yet another cold day. We have a good meeting planned. I hope it's not as eventful as last week. We had an exciting adventure last week, so now we're back to normal programming and scheduling. Thank you for Will for your assistance through that, and thank you for everyone's patience.
Yeah, and we Water One's gonna, I think, be rescheduled for this next month on the 15th. So
perfect. Good. Okay, let's start with the invocation. Nancy?
Let's all bow our heads in prayer. Precious Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day that you have given us, even though it's very cold. Thank you for this opportunity to get together with other Rotarians. And Lord, we just pray that as we go throughout the various activities of our life, that we, each and every one, remember the four-way test and apply it to our daily lives. We as citizens, we as Rotarians, and we as individuals, that we do look at everything to whether it is true, and that we judge the things that we do to be sure that they are for the goodwill of everyone involved. Lord, we just thank you that you have given us many Rotarians with the sight to serve others, and pray, Lord, that you will be with us as we go through this meeting, that we will learn something to help us, encourage us throughout this week. In thy name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Nancy. All right, let's move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the
republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
justice for all. All right, can everyone hear me? Okay. All right, let's move on. Visitors. I'm not aware of any visitors this week. Does anyone else have anyone visiting with them that they would like to acknowledge? Not yet. Okay.
Move on. Courtney has his thumb up. I don't know if that means he has something. That's just his picture. Never mind.
Okay, we'll move on to.
Yeah, sorry. This is Lee Cross. Did Dr. Bound join? Is he a member now?
I have not joined, but I would be interested if I could get an application.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Jamea. Dr. Bound, our new president at JCCC, I believe, is visiting, and I just wanted to point that out. So, and welcome him.
Yes, thank you. We're glad to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. And we will certainly touch base with regard to membership. We'd love to have you. All right, what about club or committee updates? Tim, did you have anything from the foundation?
Yeah, I have a couple exciting announcements. We have 3 foundation scholarships, if you remember, in memory of our late Senator Dick Bond. And the details of those applications for Interact students have been disseminated to the appropriate counselors. So we'll be looking forward to getting applications for those scholarships this spring, and excited about sharing that with the club. And then we also, the foundation will be offering 2 $5,000 community grants to kind of be focused on human need. The applications are now available on the website. So thank you, Will, for getting those, getting the solicitation for applications out. We would like to make sure that everybody is aware that a club member needs to be a sponsor for those grant applications. And again, we're hoping to make those decisions in April. So they're due April 5th. We've got a couple months. The details, again, are on the website, or you certainly could reach out to me.
Great. Thank you, Tim. We'll move on to membership committee. I will be circulating a new membership application from Razvir Mustan. He has visited us several times, and he has now decided to submit his application. So you will see that forthcoming this week. So keep an eye out for that. Service projects. Anything by way of service or any other update?
We have Shawnee Mission for trees in the works, and that is going to happen on Earth Day and Global Youth Service Day, which is somewhere around April 20th. One item about that, folks that would like to volunteer that have a pickup truck, and the only one I can think of is you, Jeff. But I know that there are a number of people with pickup trucks that would be available for service on that day. If you could just get in touch with me and let me know, and I'll keep a running list so that I can coordinate that with the students in the Interact Club, because I know they need our help.
David, I did sign up with them. I hope you have me on your list already.
I have you on my list, but so you signed up directly. Yeah, I guess I'm nosing into the process here, and but I'd just like to know who's going to be serving.
I'll be there too, David. I signed up with our contact from South, but I'll be there. My dad and I will be there too.
Good.
I signed up directly.
We're still soliciting for sponsorship of trees. $75. It's going to come out on the next e-spoke. Make the checks payable to an address is going to come out on the next e-spoke, and will probably be on successor e-spokes for the next number of weeks. So we're looking for support in the form of sponsorships.
And as a reminder, the foundation will be providing $5,000 of grant support to that project. And David, I'll work with Pam to get you that hopefully this week.
Good, thank you.
Great, that's a wonderful program. I'm excited that we're going to be a part of that. We'll move on to club member announcements. Carol, is she with us today? I don't think I see Carol here. Are there any other updates anyone would like to share?
Carol is having a hard time getting on.
Oh, she is.
So you kind of know that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. I would share that we're going to, I'm calling it spiritware. I don't know. I think it's time that we have some Rotary merch, some Overland Park Rotary Club merch, and we wear it around proudly. So whoever we see, the few people that we see, they'll see that we're proud Rotarians. So I'm getting a committee together. I have a couple folks that have already signed up. If you would like to join me, I'd love to have you. I'm going to put together a blurb to get out in the e-spoke this week. So you'll also be seeing something about that. But please join us if you're interested and would like to pick out, if you're a stylish person and you want to pick out our Rotarian outfit, then please join us. I think we allotted time for member good news, didn't we? Okay, so Will had a great idea. He said, let's bring back member good news. We can do that, right? And it's time for some good news. We need some good news. So is there anyone that wants to share something? What do you have for us?
I have something, but it's really about kind of animal welfare, because this week, as you guys know, it's really, really dangerous. And when the Zoom call opened today, I was talking to the sheriff's department about some animals. And so right now there are a lot of animals still outside. And I don't know if you all know this, but dogs and cats, once it goes below 20, they get hypothermia and frostbite. So in the temperatures we're in now, it's so serious. But this weekend, after working with a family for a year, we were able to get 3 dogs surrendered to us, and one was a heavily pregnant dog. And so as much as Janae loves these stories, as much as we have, some animals still outside, there are some successes, and we're having more and more people bring pets in. But I want to recognize the successes, because they are few and far between trying to get these animals out of the cold. But if you do know of any animals anywhere in Johnson County or in unincorporated or the cities, please just send me a note and we'll be able to check on them. We're trying to save as many lives as we can, and it truly is very, very dangerous for animals right now, especially companion pets. But we had some good news. So.
Great. Well, good. Thank you. Good point.
Jamia, this is Emerson. Both Stan Meyer and I live in Lakeview Village, and we have both had our second COVID vaccine.
Wonderful. That's great news. Yay. Who else?
This is Stan Meyer, and I'm here in Lakeview Village with Emerson, and we have had our second shot for the virus, and it seems like everybody who had it here, I think they had like 1,300 shots to all employees and staff, and I don't know of any real serious complications. It went very, very well, very fast, and I would encourage everybody to take advantage of this, because it's not just yourself you're protecting, it's also others.
That's a very valid point, Dan. Good point.
Jamea?
Yes.
It's Carol. I don't know if this is accurate. I assume that it is. A Burns and McDonnell engineer has told us that there will be rolling blackouts or brownouts on electricity today and tomorrow, and that they're blocking it out in 1 hour increments at a time. That's all I know. I would just tell people to be, keep your devices charged and maybe light your fireplace or something. But understandably, they're having trouble generating enough electricity.
Sure. Well, thank you, Carol, for sharing that.
I have good news. It's Carol's birthday. Happy birthday, Carol.
Carol, happy birthday.
Yeah, COVID birthdays are kind of strange, but thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
Yes, I hope you're celebrated today, Carol. You deserve it.
And I believe that Carol has a new member in her family.
Yes.
Oh, I do.
How's it going?
She poops a lot. Yeah. She's really cute, but puppyhood is a new adventure again. So that's all right. Pays to be flexible, right?
That's right.
I had a friend I talked about earlier who just got a new puppy. She said that taking the puppy out this morning, it didn't quite understand go potty at -8 degrees outside.
Really? Yeah. This is not the primo episode to be house training a new puppy. God lover.
Yeah. I bet.
I have a question. I don't know if Ron Felgreen, do you remember Ron Felgreen, longtime member of this club?
Sure.
And he was going to try to log in today. I think Carol was helping him get set up, and I was, but I don't think he's here. But if you do see Ron, you might encourage him to join us. He wanted to get in touch with some old friends and maybe even consider memberships again sometime.
Well, sure. We'd love to have him. I don't see him.
I don't see him.
No.
I've sent the information a couple of times. I think it's probably going to promotion box or spam box or something, and he's just not finding it. So I was blocked out of the meeting this morning on my notebook because it said something. I kept getting a flag back that said your host has previously deleted you from the meeting, and I think that was from last week when they had to shut the meeting down. Yeah. But there's a hitch in my get along here. So.
Oh, we're glad you got to join us.
Jamea?
Yes.
I just wanted a good news. About a year ago, our club asked me to work on a Johnson County new courthouse project for their plaza, and we are making good progress. We're working with the Johnson County staff, and we have 12 clubs, Rotary clubs in Johnson County, and we're all working together. And it looks like it's going to be a tree grove, so we'll be planting more trees in this new plaza, and that hopes to become a reality in November. And we'll have more information within the next month.
Great. That's a tremendous project. I'm excited about that. To have a presence there will be wonderful.
Thank you.
Anything else to share? All right. Well, I think we'll move on to our roundtable breakout sessions. And it's President's Day, so I think we should talk about presidents. And who do you admire the most? What president do you relate to or admire or like to follow, and why? Well, let's talk about that.
Jamea, excuse me, but we designated this 15 minutes for a presentation about the Rotary International Foundation.
We did. You're right. I'm sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Talk about presidents on your own time.
I would like to co-opt group chat and talk about the Rotary International Foundation for a few minutes. Okay, Jamea?
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Go ahead.
And I have a good reason for bringing this up, so stay with me. As everybody knows, there are really two foundations that our club is associated with. We're not going to talk about our club foundation. We're going to talk about the Rotary International Foundation. And Will, do you have my slides? Did you get, can you put up the first slide? So as I was thinking this out, I kind of started off with why it's important for Rotarians to donate to the Rotary International Foundation. It's a key Rotary principle. It makes the statement about who we are and it defines our values. It basically serves others to change lives, including our own. And the upshot of that is Rotary encourages every member to give a minimum of $100 every year. And there's an acronym for that called EREY, every Rotarian every year. But I do need to say that while it's encouraged, it is not a hard and fast requirement. So if anybody has a problem with it, they don't have to donate, but it is a Rotary expectation and it's highly encouraged. So what are the benefits of being a club that meets the expected hurdles of exceeding $100 per member per year? If our club on average donated over $100 per member per year, we would be designated a star club. And that entitles prestige, honor within the Rotary organization. And it's a measure of a high functioning club. Right now, our club is probably the largest club within District 5710 that is not a star club. And this kind of became apparent to me because I'm on the front lines of applying for different grants. And 3 years ago, I noticed a couple of things. Number one, we weren't a star club, which meant that we weren't entitled to an extra increment of about $1,000 that was added to our district grant. And I also noted that our giving numbers were going down, so our receiving numbers were going down. And that has continued for the last 3 years. And it started me asking some difficult questions, finally culminating in how does this calculation get determined? I mean, who's doing the math? And there is a report, and I'd like, that's exhibit number 2. Well, there's a report that Mandy provided me that puts into perspective where our club stands in relation to Rotary International Foundation giving. And it's not pretty. I'd like to start in the bottom right-hand corner. This box, and if you go down to 2016 and 2017, shows that our club had 116 members that were donating at least $100 to the Rotary International Foundation. Now, a couple of things happened right about that time. We had a couple of prolific givers, Ben Craig and David Miller, who had recently passed away. So we no longer get the benefit of their generosity. But for some reason within the leadership, a decision was made to convert from an automatic billing from Pam on the quarterly statement to a voluntary donation. So it dropped off people's radar. And you can see that over the period of the last 4 years, the number of people that have been donating to the Rotary International Foundation has steadily declined. And I don't think that this was purposeful on anybody's part. And I'm going to put myself into that category because I don't think I've been paying anything to the foundation either. It's out of sight, out of mind. I wasn't getting it on my statement. But the net effect has been, and you can see in the other boxes, that our aggregate numbers have been declining precipitously. Now, we were never at the same level as the district, but again, we're the only club and by far the largest club in the district that is not a star club. In the center, up at the top under annual fund contribution, that is the measure by which our district grant is calculated. So prior to, and it's calculated based on where we stood donating to the annual fund 3 years ago. So the most recent district grant was calculated on the number $11,200. And from that, our grant was $2,100, which included no Star Club incremental matching. Now, luckily, we have a foundation, and our foundation has graciously augmented our district grant of $2,000, brought it all the way up to $5,000, which is a reasonable amount of money to donate to a worthy cause. And you remember we bought 200 pairs of back-to-school shoes for refugee families in KCK, and then we augmented them with children's books that are in the Mike Myers warehouse stash of stuff. And it was a great project. It went off really well, and it was worth doing. But next year we're going to get even less because our baseline number is 9,465, and the year after that we're going to get even less than that because our annual fund contributions have declined so much. Hypothetical questions that I'd just like to throw out to the membership. Who are we? Why are we Rotarians? What do we stand for? Do our values match up against Rotary International Foundation values? And getting back to page 1, Rotary International Foundation's key off of 6 purposes, starting with fighting disease, promoting clean water, promoting community economic development, basic education and literacy, mothers and children, and promoting peace. This is an awesome organization. It is a first-class charity, and it defines who we are. It is definitely worth being in our stable of charitable organizations. Now, everybody probably donates to a couple of charitable organizations. I'm saying that the Rotary International is definitely worth considering including in our personal stable of charitable organizations, to the point where it's not really a matter of if they should be in there. It's a matter of how much we should allocate to them and how much we should ultimately give. Do we care as a club as to how we measure against Rotary International expectations? Again, $100 per member per club, or district expectations. Do we care, or are we going to go off on our own path and not really link up with the district? This is kind of dirty laundry, and this is kind of a downer, but it needs to be said. It needs to be said out loud in public. We as a club have fallen away from our roots, and we need to revert maybe back to our roots, back to where we were 4, 5, 6 years ago. Monitor and ensure compliance with minimum Star Club requirements. Personally, it's embarrassing to go to a district grant meeting and represent the only club in the district of any size that is not a Star Club member. And there's really one way to do that. And shorting for asking for money, I'm going to suggest that maybe in Pam's next annual billing on April 1st, she include a request for a $100 donation from every Rotarian in the club. So that's my presentation. Am I the only one that feels this way, or is there
absolutely not
within the club that we need to do something, and we need to do something now before June 30th? Because the measurement again is going to be as of June 30th. If we raised that number, and going back to that analysis, we're currently at $2,600 through January. We need to get it up to $10,000 because we have 100 members. 100 times 100 is 10,000.
Dave, if you will accept the question, go ahead, Clinton.
Yes, Stan.
Go ahead, Stan.
Well, I think that probably this club gives as much or more to charities through the foundation and through others than many other clubs in our area. I know I always believed in the Polio Plus, and I think the foundation has gotten away from Polio Plus. That's the international. Because I think if you give $100 to Polio Plus, that does not count as a gift to the international foundation. So
that would be in the upper right-hand corner under total contributions. Those numbers include both the annual fund and Portfolio Plus. So you can see at a glance how our numbers have been going down significantly. 4 years ago, the level of club giving, including Portfolio Plus, was $29,000, and it's now down to $4,000. So the district is capturing our numbers, and they're telling us that we've fallen off the turnip truck. I think what you're saying, Stan, is correct. If you go back historically, our club gave generously, but in the current period, we're way off historical numbers.
David, I had a couple questions. First, what's the position of our club board of directors on this?
The club board of directors last month passed a resolution that we would be in conformity with Star Club guidelines. So they are generally, everybody is in agreement on this, but we still haven't said how we're gonna achieve it. And as far as I can tell, the only way to achieve it is to be 100% every Rotarian every year. We've got to set an expectation, and we've got to promote.
My second question is to David and Jamea. Would it be appropriate for me to make a motion on behalf of our club membership at this meeting today so that we can move forward on this? Is a motion acceptable?
Yeah, I think it would be, in the sense of, how many people do we have on here? 30 participants. Yeah, I think it's good. And I would just add to Dave's sentiment that, and I don't know the full history. I've learned a little bit about it as he's been educating us. And David, thank you for your effort, because it sounds like we have kind of fallen off here. And I will tell you that when I attended the grant workshop with David a couple years ago, I was surprised to see that we were the only one in the room that weren't STAR Club members. And even that early on, I remember feeling like, wow, that was it didn't feel good. And my hometown of Fulton, Kansas was a STAR Club, and they're just tiny. But I know we can do this. We need to dedicate ourselves to this. The board, as David mentioned, has also voted to rededicate and confirm ourselves in this club to this mission, because it's so very important. And what I'd say is there's benefits for us, but as a Rotary Club, we have to think more about who else it benefits. Who are we? How are we defined? And bigger than that, we want to help. We want to help change lives. That's our goal here, and to serve. So please join me in that. And I think we certainly can entertain a motion if you'd like to put one on the table.
Thank you, Jamea. I would like to move that the Overland Park Rotary Club support the Every Member Every Year at $100 per member starting this year for 2021, which would mean that giving option would be on our April 1st billing for $100 this year. And then starting July 1st, then we would be billed as an option gift $25 a quarter, so that we could more fully support Rotary International Foundation, which is the most dynamic civic club foundation in the world. And I appreciate David, as a retired banker, looking into this audit. It is a little complicated, but I think we need to step forward. I've been a Rotarian for over 25 years, and I was embarrassed when I finally realized that my gift hasn't been going to this Every Member Every Year. We need to give to both. As a past president of our Rotary Club Foundation, I would also say we want to support our own foundation, especially for local benefit, but the international benefit for everyone is tremendous. So I move this motion for your consideration.
To make sure that the word minimum is in the language, because the door is open for anybody who would like to donate more than $100.
Yes.
I'd just like to suggest that the Rotary International Foundation, for those of us in this club who have means, is worth significantly more than $100 in a one-year giving period.
May I interrupt and ask us to call for the question out of respect for our speaker? This is a really important discussion. I don't know if we need more discussion, but I'm getting concerned. Can we protect that time, please?
Yes. Yep. I think we'll call for a second at this time. Is there a second to Clayton's motion?
Second.
Second. I didn't see who that was. Was that Tim?
Okay.
10 seconds. Yes. Is there any discussion, any further discussion that we need to have now? No?
This is Stan. I would just quickly add that as this gets passed, hopefully, that we look at best practices out there for how to do this, not just on our bill, but Paul Harris Fellow is the accumulation of what you do over that giving period. And I've been in clubs where if a member's at 900, a club puts the last 100 in, or if you have new members every year, that there's a way that we can put funds available that says, hey, you're a new member this year. We as a club are paying your first year, every Rotarian every year. Like, there are techniques and tools and structure that I think we can learn from if this passes, that I'd like to just encourage us to take full advantage of structure that will make it better. I believe, being new in the last 2 years, this Rotary Club, that it's just structure broke down. I think there's plenty of people that would want to do this. And I know we're now for that second, and now ready for the question.
Sure. Thank you, Stan. Any other discussion? Okay, we will all in favor. Let's do show of hands, please. Okay, all opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you. That's important work. Thank you for everyone's dedication. You'll be seeing more communication from the club in that regard. Okay, we'll move on to our program today. Christy Boffman is joining us. She's the Director of Education and Planning of the United Community Services of Johnson County. Christy, thank you for your patience. And Jeff, will you please provide our introduction?
I don't know if we need a whole lot of introduction, but Christy, thanks for hanging with us, and thank you all for that important discussion. I didn't mean to interrupt it, but if we needed more discussion, we certainly need to have it. But Christy joins us from United Community Services, which is a long-time relationship between members of this club and United Community Services. It goes back to when Ben Craig and Dick Bond helped form the organization as a social service planning agency for Johnson County. It performs a lot of important work for Johnson County, and Christy is here today. She's the A team. Julie Brewer is the executive director, but Christy's the one who is really kind of heading up this important project that's a multi-year project that Christy's going to tell us about. Christy has, she joined UCS in 2018, and she has a long international career. She has worked in Russia, Kosovo, Rwanda, Sierra Leone, Sudan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Haiti, and the Philippines, working on women's issues, children's issues, Save the Children with United Nations, UNICEF, and others. She has worked most recently as the Advocacy and Education Manager for the Rose Brooks Center, and has worked here in town in that regard. She has her master's from Clark University on gender development, her undergraduate degree on international development from Wichita State. So Christy, with that hurried introduction, welcome aboard. Take it away, please.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and thank you for that, Jeff. Hold on. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Just thumbs up. All right, excellent. So I wanted to do a presentation this morning about some work that we've been doing on housing in Johnson County. And specifically to talk about our newly released Johnson County Housing Study, which just came out last week, and to also talk about some of the work that we're doing on our Housing for All multi-sector housing task force. We actually, your Rotary has 4 housing task force members on it, so it's good to see some familiar faces here. Just to give you a little bit of background on how we ended up successfully implementing a housing study in Johnson County, and how we're moving forward with some of these actions. You know, you don't get a housing study overnight, and so it was definitely a process for us to get the housing study moving forward. I'm going to just show you. So this was initially part of a 3.5-year grant that came from the Kansas Health Foundation as part of their Healthy Communities initiative. And at the very beginning of this grant, we put together a group called the Johnson County Health Equity Leadership Team. And you can see the members of that leadership team here. And at the beginning of this project, the goal for us to do this work was to identify an issue with health equity in Johnson County. So to go out into our community and find out what is impacting health equity in our community. And so we did a large number of listening sessions. I'll show you our. So we did listening sessions. We went out into the community. We asked people, you know, what is it in your day-to-day lives that impacts your ability to be healthy? And overwhelmingly, the thing that kept coming up was housing. The cost of housing is the thing that impacts our health and our ability to remain healthy. And so we kind of started to dig into some research and data, which is what UCS really does well, looking at, well, you know, what does the housing situation look like? And once we kind of started putting that information together with the feedback that we got from people in the community, we started holding stakeholder meetings. We did a lot of what I'm doing right now. We visited different people in the community to start talking about housing and how we could possibly address some of the housing challenges that we see in Johnson County. And then ultimately, back in 2019, we did a presentation for the Council of Mayors in Johnson County. So we were able to talk to all of the mayors in the county. And we really had two asks at that time. We wanted a housing study. So we haven't had a housing study since 2004. And so that's a long time, and a lot of things have happened between 2004 and now, just in terms of what the housing landscape looks like in Johnson County. So we wanted that. We also wanted the cities of Johnson County to be involved. The last housing study that was done in Johnson County in 2004, it was implemented by the county. And the county really has very little control over any kind of residential land in Johnson County. The cities really have a lot more control over what happens in terms of housing and development. So it was important for us to get the cities on board. And ultimately, the county and 19 municipalities agreed to help pay for that study. Let me see here. So the housing study, we launched it. Let me go back here. We launched it in January of 2020. Probably not the best timing to launch a massive study, but I will say that the virtual format that we had to go to for a lot of the work that we did actually was beneficial, I think, in a lot of ways, and really helped increase access to the work that we were doing. So pretty happy about the participation and engagement that we've had in the study overall. Some of the barriers, just to give you an idea of some of the things that we're kind of talking about in Johnson County when we think about what impacts housing, what impacts health. In 2018, over 82,000 people in Johnson County were living at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. And that's 41,000 for a family of 3. So we had over 80,000 people living at that level, and 28% or almost 30% of the population in Johnson County are housing cost burden, meaning they're spending more than 30% of their income on housing. And when you're spending that much of your income on housing, that limits what you can spend on other things like healthy food, health care, thinking about just activities for your kids or books for your kids or education for your kids. So when we think about spending that much money on housing, it really impacts what people can spend on other things that contribute to their overall health. We have quite a few communities in Johnson County that have a large number of fixed income residents. And then if you look at our poverty levels, we can see that people of color in our community are disproportionately impacted by poverty. You can see that for African Americans in Johnson County, they have a poverty rate that is 3 times that of whites in Johnson County. And for Hispanics, it's almost 5 times. Another thing that we started to consider when we were pulling data and really trying to get some numbers together looking at housing, 40% of all the jobs in Johnson County fall into 3 main categories. So this is food prep, sales, and administrative support. So it's 138,000 jobs in Johnson County fall into these categories. And the top income range, median income range for those job categories is about $35,000. And as we saw on the previous slide, $41,000 is about the federal poverty limit for a family of 3. So there are a lot of jobs in Johnson County that are not paying a lot or paying enough to be able to afford to live here. So to launch the housing study, we put together a technical committee. And it was important when we put this technical committee together that we had people from the county and from municipalities. So we had elected officials, we had administrators, we aimed for big cities, small cities, and we aimed to have a good geographic representation. And these folks came together to help us select the people who would do the housing study and help guide the process throughout. And we're still meeting with these folks on a monthly basis. In terms of the housing study, we launched some data collection in January of 2020. In the summer, we launched a community housing survey, and then we simultaneously did some listening sessions in the community to contribute to the housing study. We had a great turnout for our housing survey. So we had well over 4,000 people respond to the housing survey. And then for our listening sessions, we had 14 different listening sessions for over 80 people who contributed to the housing study. And we really aimed to get a broad representation of people that we talked to. So we had planning commissions, city councils, we had people from our schools, we had employers, we had people who were service providers, and people who are just residents impacted by housing challenges. And then many of you might attend our Human Service Summit every year, and we did that one virtually this year, and we had 170 people attend. And as we started to present our information, some of the initial information coming out as part of the housing study, we also started to recruit people for our housing task force, and I'm going to talk about that here in just a minute. I know I'm going through this really quickly, so if anybody has any questions, just stop me and I'll answer. So in terms of the survey that we did, this is kind of what the breakdown looked like. And we tried to get as many people living different experiences as possible to participate in the survey. But you can see that overwhelmingly, people who own their homes responded to the survey compared to people who rent. And then there are some folks who are living with their parents or living rent-free. And then the chart on the right shows you just the proportion of people from different geographic areas who responded to the survey. People who responded to the survey were also very interested in taking part in our Johnson County Housing Task Force. We had over 500 people said that they wanted to be a part of continued work on housing in Johnson County. I mean, that's more than 10% of the people who completed the survey. So that is also great. When I think about this work, and I'll kind of talk about that a little bit later, but for me, one of the most important parts of this project is how we have been able to engage people in our community around issues related to housing. I've been just blown away by how people in Johnson County are interested and willing to participate in this work. And I think that's what is going to make it successful in the end. But what you see on the graph here are how people responded in our survey to potential solutions to housing issues. So you can see over 50% of folks thought that down payment assistance would be something that would help people to be able to maintain housing. Housing rehabilitation loans are another one that was very popular, mortgage assistance. So you can see that there are a lot of different possible options in terms of addressing some of the housing challenges that we have in Johnson County. And this is how people kind of landed in terms of how they feel about those. From our listening sessions that took place during the summer, there is a lot of public opposition to housing projects in nearly every city. So anything that is being built, you're seeing a lot of negative, you're seeing a lot of public opposition to. We've heard that infrastructure requirements and design standards are a huge factor in what drives up housing costs in Johnson County. The number of types and services that we need for people to function and be happy in their community continues to increase. So that's everything from medical clinics, childcare, your Starbucks, to entertainment options. And then the conflict between investors and homeowners. So tearing down houses that might have been affordable and then rebuilding those with a much larger footprint. When we look at the things that impact housing in Johnson County, we looked at this at a local level. So you can see locally, there are things that impact housing. And this could be, these are forces that are both positive and negative. So people are drawn to Johnson County, no surprise, because of amenities like education and services. We have very limited lot and land supply right now. I'm trying to think if I put a slide in that showed you where we have areas for development. Permit fees and zoning regulations are also locally a problem. Regionally, we have a limited supply of contractors. Job growth and openings can be something that draws people to Johnson County, as well as wage level. And then if you think large picture at the macro, raw material costs right now are actually a big force that is increasing the cost of housing. And then you also have interest rates, which are low, which make buying appealing to some folks, and then just global forces. And some of these things we can control, and some of these things we cannot. So some of our data takeaways, almost as many multifamily units were built in the last 10 years as single family units, but they're not spatially distributed. So they're not equally distributed throughout the county. And then also we do plan to see population growth in Johnson County, with the biggest growth being in places like Gardner and Spring Hill. And we'll still see pretty good growth rates in Lenexa, Shawnee, Overland Park, and Olathe. If you look at the chart on the right, the map, the dots that you see, the green dots represent building permits that were pulled for demolition and rebuilding. The red ones are for demolition only, and the blue dots are for building permits. Some other takeaways that we have is that there are demand for units across all price points and home types. So whether you're making $50,000 a year or $500,000 a year, we do have a demand for units across all price points. Households who rent have a lot more difficulty finding options than those who can buy. And then we also know that in Johnson County, incomes rose less than home and rental costs in the past decade. So that's obviously going to impact affordability. And the map that you're looking at now just shows assessed values of homes across the county. And you can see the lighter colors are the lower values and the darker colors are the higher values. So some of the goals and strategies that came out of the housing study. One, we need to establish and develop a group of housing advocates. So when we see opposition to housing projects, we want to make sure that we're also having people show up and present information and present perspectives that support different kinds of housing solutions. We also need to create mechanisms to share risk. So thinking about not placing all of the burden on developers or builders, but really thinking about how do we share risk in terms of addressing housing solutions in Johnson County. Preserving and rehabilitating existing housing is one of the best possible solutions that we have for attainable housing in the county. We do have existing rehab programs in the county, and it would be great for us to be able to expand those and to maybe connect those in a different way. Increase the variety of project types, especially in middle density. So rethinking what neighborhoods look like, thinking about where we do have opportunity for infill development, really thinking about that kind of missing middle density. So when we talk about the missing middle, we're talking about kind of middle class housing types, like maybe in the $250,000 range. Goal 5 is to remove some code uncertainties. And when we're talking about this, we're really thinking about where Johnson County is regionally and thinking about what might make the code process a little bit easier for folks, making it similar to what we're seeing across the state line in Kansas City. Prioritize funding incentives for attainable housing adjacent to jobs and transportation. And then goal 7 is to connect existing housing resources. So really looking for kind of like a one-stop database for housing programs. So to put our goals and our strategies kind of in place, we have developed what we call the Housing for All task force. And so this is a group that we put together. Right now we have about 200 people who have signed up for the Housing Task Force, and we're coming together for 4 workshops to address specific issues related to housing. So our goal was really to have as many people from as many lived experiences as possible around the table. And like I said, we've got at least four members from your Rotary on our task force that I can see. And so we are doing 4 workshops. Each workshop is designed to focus on a specific issue, a specific part of our housing challenge, and then ultimately hoping that we will develop a toolkit at the end of this process. And then really be able to have some housing suggestions and some tools that we can work on that have come from a lot of different people across our community. So I really blew through that. Does anybody have any questions for me about any of that information? I can send these slides out to folks as well, and I'll also send out a link to the full housing study. And if anybody wants to join our housing task force, it's not too late. So I'll send some information along about that as well that can be shared with everyone.
Yeah. Christy, you can just send the info to me and I'll make sure Carol gets it for the e-spoke and we'll have it as part of your presentation on the website.
Great, I can do that.
Christy, I want to thank you for getting this in for us today. And I apologize to the club for disrupting the discussion, which I think is extremely important. But I think this housing study is also important. So I apologize for trying to balance those two things. But Christy, I really appreciate you coming on and introducing this to everyone. There are a lot of people in Rotary who have been a part of UCS. Some have served as presidents of the board. And so really support what you're doing. But Jamea, I'm wondering if maybe it would be worthwhile. I really liked the discussion that Stan started with regard to other ways of dealing with the issue that David has brought up. And I wonder if maybe a separate discussion around some of those ideas would be worthwhile in some way to get input from club members in that regard.
Yeah, I think so. Maybe we can set up a separate meeting that's just discussion on that specific topic. We can define what that really is going to look like. That's a good idea, Jeff. We'll touch base on that too.
I apologize to everybody for jumping in, but it's 2 important discussions that we're trying to deal with today.
They are. No problem. Any other comments or questions for Christy?
Christy, I'd just like to say thank you very much for bringing the specifics. I mean, we had some general ideas, most of the members, about poverty in Johnson County, but the specifics related to housing and the difficulty, I think, is vital that we know and understand that. So thank you.
Yep.
I did have a question. Is there any possibility of getting HUD subsidized housing in Johnson County?
That is definitely one of the housing solutions that we're exploring. So that is definitely on our list, and it's something that we got a lot of support for in our housing survey.
Okay, thank you.
Nate, this is Dave White. The flip side of that is that's when the NIMBYs come out, which is not in my backyard. So it's a two-edged sword there. You need to be able to do it. Plus, there's some legislative restrictions on what we can do and what we cannot do. And so it's going to be a multi-effort to get that stuff, plus other things too. The other thing that people need to think about, it's one of the things that we stumbled upon, which is when you talk about 30% of your disposable incomes on housing, it doesn't take into account student loans. And with our young people, that is a huge, huge issue. And it's not something that's involved in the poverty. It's just, it's a top of the line, top of the chart subtraction. So it's just, those are the kinds of things we're looking at.
As I go just anecdotally driving around the county over the last several years, I've just been impressed by the huge number of apartment complexes that are going
right.
up. But I suspect that all we're doing is building more unaffordable housing. Is that true?
That is true. Yeah. Very little of the big apartments that you see going up right now have any kind of dedicated space for affordable housing.
Christy, do you track or splice out the trend line in multi-generational families in one unit?
It's tough to do that. We get a lot of our information from the U.S. Census, from the American Community Survey that they do annually. And there is a little bit of data on multi-generational homes, like multi-generational families, but not a lot. And so it's all self-reported. It's a little bit tough to track that. One of the things that is important for us to do in terms of this housing work is really thinking about, all ages and stages of life. And yeah, I mean, I'm in a stage now where I've got kids and I have older parents, and so I want my kids to be able to live in Johnson County, but I also want my in-laws to be able to stay here as well. And so really thinking through the whole course of somebody's life, like what are the housing needs here in the county and how do we keep people here? I don't want my in-laws to go someplace else. I want them here. Likewise, I mean, I can't control what my kids do, but I would like to have them close if possible. And that needs to be financially feasible.
Christy, this is Jim Courtney.
Yep.
Thanks for your presentation. I saw something recently which I thought may be of interest for you to follow. We all recognize New York City is probably the most expensive real estate in the world, or not the world, in the country. Tokyo is much more expensive. But they had built a house out of using 3D construction and had reduced the cost to where they were able to put their model home in New York at a price of around $350,000. So
yeah, I saw that recently too. I think that's a really intriguing idea, especially because right now we know it is resource costs that are driving up the price of housing, just lumber. So yeah, 3D printing would be something. Do you know what the material is that they use to print it with?
I was trying to find more information on that, Christy. I have not found that information. I did find information that a lot of the reduction in cost was because they were able to print and assemble at the job site. I thought was really interesting, reducing a lot of the labor costs.
That is interesting.
It was interesting from that standpoint, but I keep looking for larger articles and haven't found it yet.
Cool.
All right, well, Christy, thank you. Those housing demographics are very, very important, and I'm not sure that there's enough awareness around them. So thank you for sharing with us, and thanks for all your good work. We appreciate you.
No worries.
Thanks again.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yay. All right, next week's meeting, we'll have Amy Falk, the CEO of Health Partnership Clinic, joining us. Let's recite our four-way test to conclude our meeting today. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Is it fair to all?
Fair to all concerned?
Will it build goodwill and
better friendships?
Will it be beneficial
to all concerned?
Well, I want to thank you all for attending today. I want to thank you all for continuing to attend these meetings and sticking with us and navigating these waters of this year. I want to thank you for your continued commitment to this club and to help us define who we really are. We're going to navigate these waters and get through to the other side, and we need to be true to who we are in the meantime. So thank you for your efforts, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Stay warm, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.